In order to score 160 to 174, you've just got to understand how to apply the strategies. But if you want to score 175 plus, you've got to understand why the strategies work. Think back to when you took a math class, maybe in high school, maybe in college, and in your textbook, the first half of each chapter would have the formulas, the theory, the why behind why the formulas work. The second half had the formula itself and a bunch of practice questions. A lot of students just, of course, skip the first half, they skip the theory, they go right into the implementation. But the nerds, the higher scorers, are the ones who actually look at how the formula is derived. They understand why the formula works, why the strategy works, and they think about how the formula is derived from the creator's point of view. The creator, when it comes to the LSAT, is, of course, the LSAT test maker. And so if we want to be nerds when it comes to the LSAT, we've got to understand what goes into writing an LSAT question. This could involve writing your own logic game, it could involve writing your own logical reasoning argument, and it could involve reframing or transforming one logical reasoning question type into another based on the stimulus. I could imagine a world where writing a logical reasoning question is a multi-step process like an assembly line where one LSAT writer creates the argument, one chooses a question stem, and one writes the answer choices. When I interviewed a guy who used to write LSAT questions, he actually told me that he wouldn't recognize a question he'd written because it would have gone through so many stages of editing and manipulation that it would be unrecognizable later. And this just shows you how much work goes into writing these questions. And so if you want to level up your understanding of the LSAT, if you want to develop the ability to transform one logical reasoning question type into another, think about how much you would learn in that process. This exercise is just one of the many I include in my Socratic review method framework, where I help you come to see the LSAT from the test maker's point of view. This is a cornerstone of my LSAT prep courses and my coaching programs. If you're interested in finding out more how to think like a 175 plus scorer, you can check out the links below the video to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, one other element of logical reasoning prep for 175 plus is to recognize that not all questions are of equal difficulty. So we don't just focus on getting the questions right. We don't focus merely on drilling. We also focus on actual test day implementation, pacing strategies, endurance strategies, recognizing that not all logical reasoning questions are of equal difficulty. The first 10 questions in any LR section are going to be on the easier side. So you want to blast through those rapid fire, building up a time bank that you can then apply to the tougher questions later in the section. So you aim to complete the first 10 questions in roughly 10 to 12 minutes. You can then later slow down on the tougher questions that truly need it. Those are typically going to be questions 15 through 23 within a section. Maybe you'll flag 3 or 4 of those, skip them, come back to them later, recognizing that each question's worth the same, yet not all are of equal difficulty, and so it doesn't make sense to spend too much time on any individual question. That, of course, applies to the reading comp and games as well, but is most apparent in the logical reasoning section. Now let's shift gears and focus on reading comp. Now, of course, reading comp is a multi-step process. You have the passage and you have the questions. A lot of students read the passage, have no clue what they just read, then move on to the questions, hoping that'll clear things up. In reality, of course, that only confuses you more because the questions only make sense in the context of the passage. So one exercise I might have you engage in if you were my student is I would have you rewrite the entire reading comp passage in simpler language, as if you were going to explain it to a 5-year-old. You might try reading the passage, then doing only the main idea questions just as a drill, because if you don't know the main idea of the passage, you don't really know anything, right? It's like watching a movie and not being able to say, was this a comedy? Was it a romance? Was it an action movie? You've got to at least get the big picture. The details, the examples, you can always go back to the passage later to help yourself solve those specific questions, but at least knock out the general global questions first, like main idea, primary purpose, passage organization, best title, tone, author's opinion. Do those next after the general global ones, and finally do the more inferential questions that require a bit more reading between the lines. Now, of course, I know the game section is being removed after the June test, but some of you might still be taking the LSAT in either April or June, so I'm not going to leave you hanging here. One big strategy I would recommend for games is to write your own logic games. Don't waste time on Sudoku or crosswords, and of course, you've got nearly 400 actual official games to work on. Why would you do anything else? Do actual official games, redo them multiple times, then write your own games from scratch to better understand what goes into designing these games. I learned a ton when I wrote several of my own games from scratch, not just taking LSAT games and renaming the variables or anything like that. These were original games with their own unique logic of ordering games, grouping in and out, grouping matching, grouping splitting, all different types to see what goes into designing these and what are the inferences that you can make, what are the tricks and traps LSAC lays for you in each of the games that they're writing. Now, if you'd like my help implementing any of these 175 plus strategies, of course, I'd be glad to help you out through my live online classes, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. Again, you can check out the links below the video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.